Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today for our Legal Insight. I'm Jill Bloom, Group Publisher of Roofing Contractor, Walls and Ceilings, and Building Enclosure. And we always like to bring you important insight that will help you run a better business. And no one better to talk to than Trent Cotney, partner with Adams and Reese. Trent, thank you so much for joining me.
Jill, it's always a pleasure to be here.
Most definitely. Well, let's jump right in and talk about the bill that the U.S. Senate just passed. It sounds like it's on its way to its House, and hopefully we'll have some news by Friday whether this passes. But it looks like it seeks to lower some medicines, but what's more important for business owners that it increases corporate taxes and also some solar incentives. But can you give us some more insight? What do we need to know that's coming down the pipe?
Yeah, so this bill, like a lot of the omnibus bills, has a bunch of different parts to it. Deals with taxes, it deals with different medical insurance requirements. But one of the things that I think is interesting from a construction standpoint is that there is a roughly 370 billion earmarked for clean energy and what they call the climate package. What this basically does is provides a variety of incentives for businesses and construction to move forward with things like carbon emission reduction, carbon capture, the use of green energy, reducing the cost of electricity. All these types of things will be incentivized via either tax incentives or other types of financial incentives that the government is trying to put forth. What's interesting, Jill, and looking at this and really kind of doing a deep dive on this, and obviously it's still got to go through the process, is putting this money into the climate. I think is very important. Anything that we can do to help the environment, I think, is important. But at the same time, one of the things I think we've got to look for is whether or not we have the capability to really service some of these requirements. One of the issues that I think we've had, I was talking to a truck fleet representative, and they were talking about some of the new trucks that were coming out that were electric. They're having some problems obtaining these because we can't source some of the materials needed, some of the rare metals that are needed for these batteries. So it'll be interesting to see how all this unfolds, but I think this is a good move, and I think this will put some additional money out there for those contractors that are involved in either, carbon capture, solar, or anything that is environmentally, regulated.
Yeah, that should be exciting for folks that want to include solar, for example, into their portfolio. What, as contractors look at solar and some of the incentives that could be coming down, what will be some good ways to implement that?
Right. So one of the key things I think is making sure that you understand what the points are and what they can be for the end user. Part of the benefit here is being able to show an owner, a developer, or even a prime contractor what the benefits would be to using products that engage in reduction of carbon emissions, or using solar, or using things of that nature. So part of it is getting with your salespeople to understand what they can pitch and how that ties in with what this bill offers. The other thing is making sure that as these projects roll out from a public standpoint or a federal standpoint, that you are monitoring them and bidding on them accordingly. There's going to be a lot of improvements from a construction standpoint that I anticipate will come out from both a federal and state and local framework. Everything from solar improvements to energy performance guarantee contracts, all those types of things I think are going to be big these next few years.
Yeah, sounds great. So switching subjects, you and I were just talking about some insurance issues that have been surfacing a little bit more and more, like even, like what's covered and what's included. But can you just kind of expand on that from what we were just talking about and tell contractors what they need to know?
Yeah, so I think this is important for any insurance or restoration contractor to hear. And oftentimes, when we're talking to contractors that are in that space, regardless of whether it's mold remediation, or it's roofing, or it's whatever it might be, there tends to be a primary focus on the top line, on gross, but there isn't a lot of focus on operational capability, risk mitigation, things that will help your bottom line. in certain states, Texas and Florida in particular, there have been a myriad of new changes and laws that have been enacted that affect how you go to market. It affects what you can say and what you can do, how you contract, and especially in states like Florida, they are constantly changing what the rules and regulations are. So it is imperative that if you are in that space, if you are in, the insurance, the storm, the restoration market, that you are staying abreast of what the latest laws are and what the latest challenges to those laws are. So Jill, if you remember, Florida's enacted a variety of different laws, but I'd say, 50 to 75% of them are currently being challenged in court. So it's created a lot of confusion. We were just both at the FRSA Expo, and in talking to contractors there, they were trying to understand what is the current state of the law. And it's difficult to say sometimes because you've got these legal challenges. So my advice to anybody that's listening to this is you have got to stay abreast of what the latest changes are. They're constantly changing, sometimes even on a monthly basis. And you need to modify your contracts and your sales techniques to make sure that you're compliant.
So that brings up a great question, Trent. I mean, where do contractors go? Where do you go to find out what's the status and what's happening? And how do I know if I've got the right things in my contracts?
Sure. Well, I can tell you, Roofing Contractor Magazine's website and publications, as well as Walls and Ceilings. I know you guys do a great job in covering a lot of the latest issues. We obviously talk about them here on our podcast, but, get with your local associations, whether it's local, regional, or national. Oftentimes they will cover a lot of these critical issues. So, if you're in Florida, obviously FRSA, if you're in Texas, RCAT or North Texas or some of the other local associations, all of which do a fantastic job in monitoring this information and getting it out to their members.
Sounds great. Well, speaking of FRSA, I just saw you there, but there's a lot of, there's some events coming up where if contractors are going to be visiting or showing up at some of the events, where will they be able to see you speak?
Sure. So I'll be on the road quite a bunch here coming up. Probably one of the biggest events I think that we're going to have is Western States. That'll be towards the end of September. I'll be speaking a few times there. Also hosting a Family Feud style roofing trivia show, which should be fun at the end of the first day. So that's going to be something new that we're doing. I'm going to be speaking at the ARCA, the Arizona Roofing Contractors Association convention shortly thereafter. And then I got a very busy October from the National Slate Association to NRCA's legal conference. You name it, I'm on the road 3 or 4 times. It's going to be a great time.
Oh, sounds great. Well, thank you for all you do, Trent.
Thank you.
And thank you again very much for joining me today. And if anybody needs to reach you, how do they do that?
Sure. They can go to my email, trent.cotney@arlaw.com.
Sounds great. And if anyone has any questions for us, it's roofingcontractor.com, wconline.com, or buildingenclosureonline.com. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for all our free content, our e-news, our podcasts, our webinars, our videos, whatever it may be, however you want to consume that content. But most importantly, stay safe and healthy. We can't wait to see you soon. Thanks again, Trent.